Okay, going to the 8th question, you have been told that tan hyperbolic x is 1 over 2. So the question is to find the value of x. So again, we need to recall what tan hyperbolic of x is, and from that we can determine what x is going to be. So the solution runs like this. From the identity that we have, sec hyperbolic squared x equals 1 minus tan hyperbolic squared x. You see, we can have sec hyperbolic squared x to be 1 minus 1 over 4. Because 1 over 4 here is obtained because tan hyperbolic of x is 1 over 2. You have been told that is 1 over 2. So squaring it, it will be 1 over 4. Then when you take the difference between the two, you will have 3 over 4. So look, using the identity that cos hyperbolic x is 1 over sec hyperbolic of x, we can obtain that cos hyperbolic squared x is 1 over sec hyperbolic squared x. I simply squared both sides and obtain this one. And we knew what sec hyperbolic x squared x is. It's already written, 3 over 4. So we can take the reciprocal of this one as cos hyperbolic squared x value. And here, cos hyperbolic squared x is 4 over 3. Take the reciprocal of 3 over 4. It's going to be 4 over 3. So cos hyperbolic squared x is 4 over 3. As I mentioned earlier, cos hyperbolic x is always having a positive output. In fact, we were able to take here plus or minus under radical 4 over 3. But considering the negative one is meaningless, because the range for cosine hyperbolic x is from 1 to infinity, positive value. So we need to consider the positive output only. That's why here I took the positive radical expression. So as you know, the positive radical of 4 is 2, and positive radical 3 is written as you see. 2 over radical 3 is going to come. And we knew what cos hyperbolic of x is from the definition. Cos hyperbolic of x, as you know, is a power of x plus is a power of minus x over 2. By definition, cosine hyperbolic of x was defined this way. And you have been given here that this cos hyperbolic x is 2 over radical 3. So you would just simply take 2 over radical 3 as it is. What is our intention? Our intention is to determine the value of x as it is written here. So in order to obtain this x, let's now try to apply crisscross multiplication. So radical 3 times e to the power of x is going to be radical 3 e to the power of x. And radical 3 times e to the power of minus x is going to be radical 3 times e to the power of minus x. Here 2 multiples 2 and we will obtain 4. Now look here. Here we are having radical 3 e to the power of x plus radical 3 e to the power of minus x equals 4. So let's multiply the whole by e to the power of x, students. If you multiply the whole by e to the power of x, you are going to obtain a quadratic expression of e to the power of x. You see? So if you multiply both sides by e to the power of x, one can obtain that radical 3 e to the power of x the whole squared. Look, e to the power of x is the whole squared minus 4 times e to the power of x plus radical 3 equals 0. Let me just tell you how this is obtained. So as you are multiplying the whole by e to the power of x, e to the power of x times e to the power of x comes to be the power of x the whole squared, and radical 3 is written as it is. Then as you are multiplying by e to the power of x, look, this is going to be multiplied by e to the power of x. 4 times e to the power of x is going to come. So we can shift this 4 times e to the power of x to the left in order to have 0 to the right side. So as we are doing that, we do have minus 4 e to the power of x. And again, when you multiply this by e to the power of x, the bases are the same. E is the same as you see, the base e. So take one base e and then add the exponents. Minus x plus x is going to be 0. So e to the power of 0 is going to be 1, and 1 times radical 3 is radical 3. Thus, students, after multiplying both sides by e to the power of x, we can obtain radical 3 times e to the power of x squared minus 4 times e to the power of x plus radical 3 equals 0. This in fact is a quadratic expression of e to the power of x. So your coefficient here are a is radical 3, b is negative 4, and c is a constant, 1 is radical 3. So using the quadratic formula, e the power of x equals to negative 4. Basically we are having negative positive 4 plus, I just have, you see, omitted using the minus 1 because this is always positive. In order to have a positive output we must consider the plus 1, is 4 plus the square root of, what is b squared here, student? B squared is 16. 16 minus 4 times radical 3 times radical 3, which actually is 12, because radical 3 and radical 3 makes 12, and 4 times, radical 3 times radical 3 makes 3, and 4 times 3 makes 12. And then this has to be divided by 2 times a. A in our case is radical 3, so it's going to be 2 radical 3. Now what's happening here is, see, 16 minus 12 is 4. 12 is 4. So the square root of 4 makes what? 2, right? So 4 plus 2 makes 6. So 6 divided by 2 radical 3 is going to come. 6 divided by 2 radical 3 is going to come. And from this, by 2, 1 by 2, 3. 3 over radical 3 can come. And as we know, 3 over radical 3 is nothing but it is equivalent to radical 3. Radical 3. There is also another possibility of finding x from this, because look, if you take minus here, it will be also what, student? If you take minus here, it will be also positive, you see? 4 minus, this is going to be what? 2, and 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1 over radical 3, right? So there is also a possibility of getting 1 over radical 3, right? So 1 over radical 3 is, as you are rationalizing it, it will be radical 3 over 3. So there is also another option of getting radical 3 over 3. So you may take radical 3 and radical 3 over 3. So you do have two options for x values here, okay? And why I didn't write that one? Because I thought that this might be negative, but as I just observed right now, it's positive. So you may take radical 3 over 3 as another input too. So now you do have e the power of x radical 3. So from this, let's solve for x. So as you are solving for x, introduce ln both sides. So as you are introducing ln both sides, what is going to come here is ln of e the power of x equals ln of radical 3. Basically, guys, for the other option, we have radical 3 over 3 too. So look, this ln brings this x down, and here we can have x to be ln radical 3. So the value of x is, one possible value of x is ln radical 3, but students, as I said, we can also take ln of radical 3 over 3 as a second option. Now proceeding to the next one, the second one, we are having another expression again here, students. So for this particular question, we do have the ninth one, and it says f of x is given as e the power of x, radical e the power of radical x, and you have been told that fog of x is the same as gof of x, which is x. Then you are asked to find g. Remember, student, that if fog of x is the same as gof of x, f and g are inverse to each other. So indirectly you are asked to find the inverse of this function. The inverse of this function is nothing but it is g of x. So now let's find the inverse of this one. So the solution runs like this. Fog of x is the same as gof of x. Here f and g are inverse to each other. So if f and g are inverse to each other, we are indirectly to find the inverse of the given function f. So let me take f of x to be y now. If you take f of x to be y, y is equal to e the power of radical x can come. Now interchanging x and y, look, if you interchange x and y, what's going to come here is x is equals to e the power of radical y. Now let's solve for y. In order to solve for y, let's introduce ln both sides. Then ln x equals ln of e the power of radical y. But we know that ln of e the power of radical y is the same as radical y. So we can have radical y to be ln x. You see? Radical y to be ln x. So we are now looking for what radical of y is going to be, y is going to be. So in order to know what y is, let's square both sides. So when we square both sides, what happens here is y equals ln squared x. You see? Squaring both sides makes, you see, y to be ln squared. So y is ln squared x, but we know what y is. Y is the inverse of f. So the inverse of f is nothing but it's g. So your g of x is going to be ln squared x.